Welcome to another episode of the Rainmaker Podcast, where we're going to unpack the big question: why do buyer agents think the leads suck, and what you can do to instantly increase lead quality. Let's get rocking. Welcome to the Rainmaker Podcast, where we help business-minded real estate agents stop chasing leads and help them start attracting business. We don't claim to make winners here. We do claim that we help winners win bigger and faster. Building your business is building your database, one that works harder for you than you do for it. So if you want to get off the transaction treadmill, keep on listening. If you want the shortcut to dominating your market, then go to www.marketmakersystems.com/demo. The old leads suck conversation. And I'm very passionate about this, but I don't want to steal the mic here because Mr. Mike Oddo knows about the sucky lead myth buster.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely a big part of my everyday life, all the way back since I first started generating leads, not for myself but for agents on my team. And the funny thing about that is, when I generated a lead personally for myself, there was nobody to complain to. I couldn't say, "Oh, the lead sucked." If the lead sucked, it's because my marketing sucked, right? Or because I didn't have the skill set to convert them, which was actually truly the case. And so, yeah, this is a fun topic for me. I'm really excited to dive into it. There's just a lot of things that I think we should just create awareness around for the agents listening.
Well, I'm listening.
Fair
You're
enough.
in the pool.
All right, I'll dive in. I don't want to hog the mic either. I'm trying to be gracious. I think first and foremost, understanding the journey of the lead is probably the primary thing that a person can do to create an awareness around whether or not a lead sucks. And every time I hear the leads suck, I just feel like saying the Glenn Ross line: the leads don't suck, you suck. But the truth is, nobody sucks. Everybody wants to do a good job, and everybody wants to make money. And so, what is the fundamental flaw in this process? And I can tell you, having a lot of different agents, in real estate on my team initially is probably the paradigm that I'm going to come from first, and then I'll go into generating leads and running marketing services for agents across the country and some of the challenges there. And so, first and foremost, what is the lead doing, right? What is their focus? And understanding that is going to be the difference in being able to convert them, or understand again if they're good or bad. So if it's a seller lead, for example, and we'll start with that because right now, it's definitely a seller's market. If they're coming in for a piece of information, generally a home value is what most agents are going to utilize to generate a seller lead. From my perspective, they're early in the process. They're trying to determine, if they were to sell, they're just kind of thinking about the possibility of selling, what their home might be worth. And so understanding that in particular is going to help you with the game plan as far as following through and servicing this person and adding value in your possible relationship with them in order to create an opportunity for you and for them as time goes on. And so, what are all the reasons why somebody would want to know that information? What are the possible situations that they're in that would motivate them to go after and fill out a form to try to determine that information? I mean, we all know there's a lot of different ways to find out, the possibility of your home's value. But specifically, more than just, looking at the tax records and finding the assessed value, filling out a form is going to be a little bit more in the lines of reality for them in their mind of what it might be worth if they would put it on the market. And so that's primary to understanding, again, the beginning of what's happening in their life as to why they would fill out the dang form in the first place. After that process, and I do want to touch on the buyer side of this as well, but after that process,
but you know what I struggle with?
What
is, what is a lead? Like, if you think about, in the very nature of when I wrote the book Inside Sales Predictability, I was really coming from the difference in data, someone who provided their information and someone who didn't. right? And I always had a thing that I just hear me out here, because here's the bottom line is that over the last 10 years, we've never had more information at our fingertips about a prospect. Okay. And,
That's true.
a sales lead is literally just the identification process or the data gathering of someone who's a prospective buyer of your product. And at the end of the day, when I was in the gym membership business, if someone filled out a form at their local dry cleaners to win a 14-day trial, that was called a lead box. And those leads, everybody, when I got into I ended up being the youngest general manager at Bally Total Fitness. I managed the Dallas Addison Club, then went to the Garland Club, then went to the Irving Club, ended up doing and managing their largest, newest health club. Not proud of them, but it was a very, very experience. I learned a lot. And one thing I learned was that the reason I got promoted is because I called the lead box leads and everybody else said they sucked. That's the bottom line. I turned clubs around with that. But I'll tell you what, first of all, I never thought the lead sucked. Now, when I would get to a gym, people would say they sucked. They would leave them in their desk until I started making sales with those leads. Now, I'm being fully transparent here. This I could write about in a book. There was a guy named Michael Tilley. It was the very first time someone told me this. He worked at the Mayfair Club. They said, yeah, Michael Tilley, he's doing X amount of sales. I said, how's he selling so much? They said, he reads sales books. I was like, what is a sales book? I'd never written. I honestly think in my life, I've not up until that point read more than 2 books. And I know I could bet, if I was betting, I would say only one cover to cover. And so when I got my hand on a sales book, first of all, I improved my skills, I improved my conversion, and I learned how to articulate my value, demonstrate my value, and the leads did not suck. In fact, I just had to know what I was going to say to the lead. Now, you don't say the same thing to a lead that tries out for a 14-day trial as one that calls in about your 0 down payment. Let me tell you about the 0 down payment. The 0 setup club is alternate day membership, every other day, 1 club. That's just a lead, right? That's just a lead. It's someone who responded to an offer. And so we would take those people and they would come in and buy personal training, 30 days worth of supplements called a System 30 and a gym membership to go to all the gyms, because they would come in and we would take them through a sales process, right? And the people who skipped that process, when they would skip over steps or shortcut, and you knew when they would do it, because when I became the general manager, I just simply let you go if you didn't take the person on a tour. How the heck were you going to ask someone to sign a 36-month contract when you didn't even show them the club? I mean, I would have people take guest members back, ask them if they wanted to buy one. They said no, let them go work out with their guests and say, hey, man, they didn't want to join. They just wanted to try it out, right? And so, if you didn't know how to articulate the features and the benefits, and so the point is that in your business, I remember reading a blog post by HubSpot that said, why do salespeople say the leads suck? And it was like, in fact, it was the leads don't suck, you do, is what I think it said. You can Google it. It was a great blog post. But the point of it is that there's this responsibility with marketing and sales to come up with an agreement on what a lead is. And then more importantly, what the sales process is. And if you haven't done that, then how do you not, if you don't have an agreement, how do you hold somebody accountable, even yourself, to know that, when I do it this way, I yield more than when I do it that way? Listen, one way works better than another. Calling a lead 5 times versus leaving a voicemail versus not, versus text messaging them, I mean, there is we call it our perfect 29-day follow-up plan. And Jake, I don't remember where they could get a copy of that, but I know we have a copy. If you want to, where could they get a copy of, is there a place where they could download a copy of the perfect 29-day follow-up plan?
Yeah. If you go to marketmakersystem.com, and you'll have it on the site there, but you can also go to marketmakerssystems.com/29day and download that there.
Yeah. And that was after literally, so my point is that the only point I wanted to make, Mike, is that if your company hasn't defined a lead and got an agreement between the people that are handing people out and the qualifying process, then you will have people that have the quality of the lead left up to their own interpretation and opinion, which might not be the same as yours, A, and B, you probably don't have any content strategy for the people that do not qualify as a sales lead, which, in fact, when you're doing sales development, should be kicked back over to marketing in order to continue to establish trust and build authority, so that when you do get to the sales cycle and process, the people are predisposed to do business with you. And the point of marketing is to make sales superfluous, Peter Drucker. And that's the whole point, is that you have to understand how marketing and sales works together. And if you're going to say the leads suck, then we need to define what a lead is so marketing can go out and deliver one. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, man, I love it. I mean, there was a lot to really unpack there. And I think specifically what you said was, the leads that everybody ignored were being ignored because they didn't have the process or the skill set or really the dialogue to convert them. And I think that's a really good nugget, because it's 100% the case, and to go further, the definition of a lead, in my opinion, and I'm going to go way back to when I first started selling real estate, back in the good old days with dial-up modems and stuff. If somebody gave me their info and they said, Mike, here's what I'm looking for, and it could have been from a sign call or a print ad call or a walk-in, because I'd take uptime at the traditional brokerage I started at. I would write down their information on a little stenography pad, and I would call these people every time I come into work. Now, I had to work 2 jobs to be able to have the privilege of selling real estate, because obviously you got to have one to eat, and then real estate was to get ahead until I got enough core capital. That's another story. But when I would come in on my uptime, all I would do is sit there and call through those people, because I had their permission to talk to them and I had their permission to serve them. And the only value that I had at the time was, I could look for some properties for them. So that would be the reason for my call. It wasn't a very strong script conversion dialogue, type of a game plan, but it was better than nothing. And so my point there is, to me, a lead is somebody that is established as far as, yes, I'm going to buy, yes, I'm going to sell. Maybe their timing is a little bit still unclear, or maybe it's very clear, and you have permission to talk to them, and they've given you that permission, and that's what I personally define as a lead.
I love that. Yeah, and I think one of the things that I learned, I didn't know what I know today back then. Obviously, today we build out, we have a methodology, which is, if you don't know, you probably could go back and listen to the pilot, where we kind of dive a little bit into what we believe, and kind of expand on what we're talking about today. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to is your sales process needs to be built around the customer journey, and you really need to tailor your communication to the prospect, lead, subscribers, needs, wants, because at the end of the day, every salesperson is going to be tempted to blame, a bad month, or not hitting quota, by pointing over at the marketing department and saying the lead sucks. But that's not true. The truth is that, Mike, I thought you explained it brilliantly, and I've actually stole this from you twice now. If it wasn't you, I thought it was, but somebody told me where they used an example about Zillow, and I don't know if this was you the other day, but it was talking about, at Zillow, when a lead comes into Zillow, they don't just give the lead to the end user. They don't give it to the premier agent. In fact, they give the lead what the lead wants, which is content. And that person then consumes content and trusts the brand, which is Zillow, until one day they create an account, and they still don't give the lead to anybody until the person says that they want to speak to a premier agent. And so somebody, I could go to Zillow right now, and it's not the point that it's Zillow, whether it's Zillow or Realtor.com, whatever. The brand is building trust with the consumer by helping them and by providing content to them that will help them based upon their problems, and giving them an easy way to navigate and to interact and engage with the brand, so that brand eventually builds enough trust with that consumer that then they extend their influence over to you and suggest you if you're a Zillow lead, the premier agent, and then you pay the agent an absorbent amount, but you don't realize you're paying for impressions and the reason why is because they don't want you to own the lead. You don't own the database of everything that goes to Zillow. You don't own it. You just simply don't. They own it. They give you the lead when the person says they want to talk to you. And then they charge you for impressions. If they would have charged you for what the margin in which they use to self-liquidate their TV ad spend and all of that stuff to have a singular domain strategy, then your argument would be that all the people that came to the site were yours, not just the ones that converted, but all the people they're retargeting. And if you left, that you should be able to take that data with you. And they say, no, we're the marketers. You just service the customers. And in exchange for the money you give us, our arbitrage on profit will be knowing how many impressions we need to give to you in order for you to get a lead and be happy to exchange the money you're paying and for us to build $1 billion business.
Man, that's deep. The truth is the amount of data that they collect on those Zillow leads, it's appalling. I mean, I'm not going to go into the story about my experience there, but I can just tell you as a software company, when I saw the agreement that they wanted us to have and sign, I couldn't do it because it was just the agent in me was just so appalled that they would even demand this kind of data on another fellow agent's lead. But it's because it's not the agent's, it's theirs. You're 100% right. One of the things that I found that was equally important in helping through this process was the accountability to, the conversion rates and what to expect. One of the things that I experienced heavily was what I called, the lead lottery or lead hogs, and agents on my team just scrolling them up in case somebody, reached out to the keyboard and said, hey, can you show me this house? So they didn't want to call them. They didn't want to convert them. They didn't want to do nothing. But, in case, I'll just take all the leads that I can. And Jake, I've learned a lot from you as far as accountability to, MQLs, SQLs. Can you kind of give us a little education around that and how we're doing it right now?
Yeah, and I was just writing this down so I didn't forget. So, understanding what the benchmarks are conversion wise is one of the biggest keys of being able to coach anybody up from where they're at currently. So let's say we have an agent on our team that gets 100 leads, and then we have another buyer's agent on our team that we know have been, they've been around for a little bit longer. They understand you a little bit more, what you've done, because none of them are going to be as good as you are, which is probably the most frustrating part, but that's okay. It's just understanding what you want them to get to and what the benchmark needs to be based around a process you create for them. So Michael, you were alluding to that too, of if you don't have a repeatable process to give to these people on what the sales is going to be, you're not going to have consistency in the numbers, and it's going to drive you bonkers, right? So understanding once they get to this point that we've defined as a sales qualified lead, so they are now passed on to the salesperson, what's supposed to happen? If they get 100 of those, how many are they supposed to actually convert? And that's good for them to understand too, because then they're not coming to you like, this is terrible. We've had the fortune of working with the authors of Go for No, but I came across Go for No as a book, 10 years ago, probably, when I was working in California. Somebody gave it to me when they were interviewing with me, actually. So understanding that just changes the paradigm of how you look at the leads, right? So if I get 100 of them and I expect to close 4 of them and get 6 of them to go around and show properties to, and start the pre-approval process. If I understand that I'm only going to close 4, that means I need 96 of the leads to tell me no. So the faster that they can tell me no, the less time I can focus on the 96 and the more time I can focus on the 4, right? And it's just understanding that to where it's okay, 96% of these are not going to work out. But that just means they're not going to work out right now, right? That does not mean that they're not going to work out ever, which is probably the biggest fatal flaw that we've talked about a few times now in the podcast. But probably the biggest fatal flaw is just taking those 96 and throwing them away and not doing anything with them, rather than keeping them in our herd, right? Building a fence around them and being able to give them good content. Similar to what Zillow does. They know what those people are looking for. They're looking for quick access to home that's easy, that doesn't require talking to people. So give them what they want, and they'll stick around. And once they are ready, maybe a year from now, maybe 3 years from now, if they raise their hand, you're there to catch them. But it's being able to understand, okay, if the benchmark is I give people 100 leads and they're going to convert 4 of them, it's just maintaining, okay, how many did we connect with? So out of the 100 people, you should have connected with, let's say 30. Of those 30, you should have gotten into good conversations and gotten them over to the lender 10 times. And of those 10 people, we need to get at least 4 closed, right? And then it's just making sure you're on pace for that. Every single 100 leads that comes through are breaking down depending on what their goals are, and just reverse engineering what that needs to be for them to be happy and you to be happy.
Well, and I think specifically, so one of the mistakes I first made, and I know, with a lot of systems, they're just complete automation and round robining the leads, is I did it like, like a socialist methodology where every agent on the team got the same amount of leads so nobody could complain. But the flaw in that is some agents are going to do better than others. Some agents are going to work harder than others. And specifically, which agents to give those out to, how to make the rules of engagement, transparent. Like, hey, whoever has the highest conversion ratio with this set of leads, as we distribute them equally, is going to get obviously the higher set. And I know that's something you do now, Jake, and that's what I wanted to touch on.
Say that one more time, Mike.
Sorry, I was muted. I was saying specifically the ability to distribute leads to agents based on their conversion rate, not based on a even Steven method.
Right, and it's just being able to understand again what you have in your stable, right? Because the leads do not suck, right? It's typically the process that you're taking them through. So if we have a person in our stable that's converting 2 times what the average is of your buyer's agents, then you're going to want to have a significant portion of the leads that you have going to that person to make sure that you're maximizing what comes through your sales funnel, right? You're putting X amount of dollars into the top of this funnel, which is generating X amount of leads, which some of them are now, some of them are later. But these many people are getting to the point where they are actually getting passed off to a salesperson. You want to make sure that you're going to maximize what's coming out of the bottom of that. So the even Steven method's not going to work. If that's the end goal, right? If you're trying to keep everybody happy, then that's probably a good way to do it. But if you're trying to maximize your business, the best way to do it is based off of what they can handle, give them whatever they can handle first, and then disperse it after that once their plate is full.
Yeah, if you want to keep everybody happy, then sell ice cream.
Exactly.
How would you communicate that to a sales team? I'm sorry. I want to get this all the way through, because if I would have known this back, in the early days when I was learning lead generation and distributing leads, it would have saved me a lot of time, money, and headache. How would you communicate that to a sales team in a way that makes perfect sense and gets everybody on the same page?
So it's setting the agreement from the get-go, right? Not working from expectations. I got taught that not too long ago, but it makes a difference in every relationship you'll ever have in your life.
The book plug there is the 4 agreements.
The 4 agreements. So Jay gave me that book, I don't know, probably about 2 years ago now. But it makes a big difference in your personal life and your business life. So working from expectations versus agreements, if you can have that as an agreement, even a written agreement, when you bring people on board of these are the benchmarks that I have. And if your closing percentage gets to this, you're going to maintain this percentage of the leads. If it gets to this point, you're going to maintain this percentage of the leads. And so they know what they need to focus on out of the gate is making sure that they convert as much as they can, so then they can get more of the good stuff, but they got to earn it. It's not just something that you get. It's something that is earned, which is something that they'll improve upon, but you've got to have a way to track that, and you got to stay on top of it and make it a game, make it a scoreboard that they look at on a regular basis. that they're seeing if they're winning or losing or if they're on their way. And then you also got to make sure that if that is something that they're struggling with, that you either replace them if they're not coachable, or if they are coachable, you've got to have a good training system in place, or at least a repeatable, proven training system in place, whether you do it or not, to get people up to speed to where they can win if they are those A players that'll just go and make it happen.
Absolutely. Well, I think that was well said. One of the things that I do know, guys, is that if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. We are going to continue to give us feedback, and we'd love to hear what you think about the show and the topics that we're covering. Ultimately, our goal is, like we said on the last episode, if you didn't get to hear it, go check it out. You want to get subscribers. Today we're really talking about how to define a lead and how to really create a marketing strategy that's communicated and agreed upon with sales, because at the end of the day, it's that relationship. Who has custody of that person? Who is ultimately responsible? It's once you nail that definition and that handoff, a lot of the times sales will hand it to marketing because they weren't ready. It didn't work out. Our marketing will hand it to sales. But if you can work as a team under the form of an agreement, you will build more predictable. You'll build more predictability. Marketing can make sales' job so much easier. And the hardest part about this is how do you juggle all that when it's all on you if you're a solopreneur? And that's one of the things that we do here at Market Makers. We help people go from that solo practitioner to building a team where you have all kinds of different other challenges, like dual ownership of a contact, whether it's inside sales, outside sales, inbound or outbound. So if you haven't had the opportunity, you really should take a look at the tools that we provide at Market Maker by going to marketmakerleads.com. Make sure that you subscribe to this post. Is there any final parting words or any last things that you gentlemen would like to end the show with today?
Coach them up or coach them out.
I love it.
Follow up with what Jake was saying. Yep.
Absolutely. And I'm excited. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to add an additional $250K to your real estate business by building a team. So continuing on this theme here of how to get leveraged and add more to the bottom line.
I love that. So I love coach them up, coach them out. I always said, if I have to manage you, I don't need you. But the most important thing is, guys, we appreciate you taking the time to not simply just work in your business, but joining us today so that you can work on your business. All right, gentlemen, I'll see you guys on the next episode.